Hey, everybody, Kevin Harned with you. Welcome in on this Friday evening. It's 8:17, a little snow on the ground. A lot of people probably sitting at home. We thought we'd help pass the time by jumping on with a little live stream. We do have a wind chill advisory out. We're going to talk more about that coming up, but most people inside probably don't have to worry about that. If you're out late tonight, early tomorrow, that'll be a little bit of concern, but we'll talk about that. We've sent our alerts out. We are on live here on our live stream. Let me just jump in. I want to bring in John Belski. Everybody knows John. John, hello.
How you doing there?
We're doing good here. It's good to see you. Of course, I have a chance to see you ever so often, but folks on the live stream, not so much. So they're probably like, well, man, I know that guy.
Right. And I don't know if people remember me or not, because I mean, it's, well, it's been what, 14 years since I've done full-time weather. And I know I did part-time for a number of years there, but actually, Kevin, whenever I go, I get stopped all the time, and I certainly appreciate that. And it's still fun talking with everybody out in the public there about the weather.
Well, I know how much you love the weather. Obviously, we had a chance to work together. You're my mentor, so I grew up watching you, and ever since I was in the 7th grade, it's what I wanted to do. So I feel so fortunate to have met you that many years ago, and you've said you've been gone 14 years. It seems like yesterday, but my God, that means we've known each other for more than 30 years.
Can I tell the quick story about how you got hired?
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Come up, and back in those days, there weren't as many newscasts. So the weather staffs on all the stations. I say back in those days, like it was a long time ago. But I guess it has been now, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But we had 3 was our staff. We had Tom and me, and then the opening came up. So our news director, I told her, I says, she says, what are we going to do? We have, I need somebody. And I said, there's this guy, he's done some on-air work up in Lafayette, Indiana, recent graduate of Purdue, great weather school. And I said, actually, I said, Kevin does a really nice job. He hasn't been in the business a whole long time, but I said he does a really nice job. And so Kathy had said, well, have him send me a tape, because back in those, nowadays, you just email a video and you have it instantly. But back then you had to lay down a tape on a VHS or whatever, and then mail it, and it took, several days. Well, I know I had left a message for you, and you were up at what's
Cedar Point
up in Lake Erie, Cedar Point.
Yeah.
So you get home back to Lafayette like at midnight and hear this saying, whoa, job possibility. And Kevin, you've always been a go-getter, and you were down in Louisville, almost 3 hours away the next morning with the tape in hand. And because I know Kathy came by that afternoon and said, I've already got a tape of Kevin. And he's pretty good. And the rest is history.
Well, and
but it was like I was blown away, because we'll get a tape from Kevin in about a week or so, and here it was the next morning. So but that's, for everyone watching, that's Kevin. I mean, you don't do anything halfway. You've always given it your all.
Well,
so I've always appreciated that.
You're a big reason because of that. I learn from the best, and that's what makes it fun. A lot of people chiming in here, John. I don't know if you can see these comments. I'm going to just read a couple. A lot of them are just you're missed. We miss John. We love John. We want the folklore back. He has the folklore book. So a lot of people chiming in. It's just saying that, and then some people are like, Kevin, you're not even in the camera frame.
I appreciate that.
I'm just going to move over just a tad here. Sorry, I was focused on everything but where we were situated. Well, John, we have about 30 minutes here just to sort of chat about the weather, what's going on. First of all, how much snow did you get?
I got about 2.5 inches at my house here, but it was nice. I know the nights are longer than the days right now, but why can't we get falling in the daytime? Have you noticed that? It's like 80% of the time it's night and we don't get to watch it fall.
Yeah, and then everything's just sort of it hasn't even been enough to even make it fun, really. I mean, today was okay. It was the kids at least got out to sleigh ride, and but you can't make snowballs, no snowmen. The snow's too dry. It's kind of one of those snows.
End of October, Lynn and I went out to Denver. This was the weekend before Halloween, and we had 10 inches of snow. And I remember saying, "What? This is probably more snow than we'll see all winter in Louisville." And so far, that's the case. Although, we still got all of February and part of March, so there's still a chance to get some decent snows here.
Yeah, don't give up on it yet.
And that season total is up to 4.2.
That's as of today. Yeah, I know that just excites all the snow lovers, but that's more than last year. If you can imagine.
I don't even remember. What was our winter total last year? Didn't we get 10 inches?
Well, the winter total, yeah, but what makes it sound good is when you start from January and you go through the year, it was like so minuscule because remember it warmed up. There was only that one little brief dusting. So
yeah, it's been tough for the people who like the snow, and and talk about Buffalo, where on Wednesday they had 1.5 inches of snow in 1 hour, and so they kind of laugh. They're chuckling about us, but the people here, if you like the snow, we really appreciate it because everyone's hanging on the edge of their seat for a week leading into that 2-inch snowfall. What's it gonna be? What do our models say? What's this and that? And then when it's snowing, people are staying up late or getting up early or getting onto Kevin's live things here to see the latest. And then people get out and enjoy it. Because we know we don't get a whole lot. So, now we really do enjoy our snow.
I have to ask this.
Does that make sense?
Do you like seeing the model data ahead of time? Do you like divulging that information ahead of time?
You asking me that? Or
yeah, because anytime I push out things, they're like, "Oh, that is so." It's people go nuts. It's wild.
Yeah, here's an interesting thing about the GFS model for those that follow the models. If you go back, and this has worked almost every winter in the last 30 years. If you take days in advance, GFS usually predicts about 80 inches of snow for us during the winter. They always say they have us getting 15 inches of snow 7 days out. And then, by the time it gets here, it's either rain or it's
dusting,
an inch or something like that. So, but every winter, if you add up the number of times the GFS has us getting snow a week out, in most winters, it's about 70 to 80 inches.
Yeah, and the same with this system and the one prior. Remember early on, it's like, we're going to get 1.5 feet of snow, and the models were consistent both the Euro and the GFS, and then boom, it whittled it down to like 1.5. These were some of today's totals. Some of the highest coming in just to our east and Underwood, Indiana. I don't know if you've been there, but 4 inches of snow. Henryville was
right there on the Scott County line on Highway 31.
Not too far from Henryville, and they hit 3.5.
North Henryville, yeah.
So
how much was it?
3.5 in Henryville.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Bardstown had 3, and then the airport 2.7. So that was our official total. Here's the map. Numbers are kind of small on this screen, but again, you see where most areas 1 to 3 inches, a few 4-inch totals in there, and then the higher totals off to our east. Of course, they had the 2 rounds of snow, you recall, yesterday. One earlier in the afternoon, and then that second round went through. So,
by the way, does Bardstown, do they still have that sign? When you come into the city, home of Kevin Harned, or is that New Haven that has that?
They replaced it with Bourbon Capital of the World. I've been replaced.
It was so funny because I used to give all sorts of talks and stuff down in Nelson County, and then once you came on the air, that was in the late 90s, right?
It was.
I was never invited to bar again.
And now they don't even invite me back. See, I'm just old and washed up myself now. So whatever. One of these days I'll get back down there.
Photos there.
Did you see those? So a lot of folks, and this is a thing, John, the technology, I know, I mean, working the years we worked together, it was hard to keep up with it. It's the same now. I mean, here I am, I'm running all this just like a TV station right in front of me on one computer.
But the facilities you have though at Wave, the live room that you're in right now, it's really cool.
Well,
your engineering staff, they're magicians to be getting all this out there. And I mean, it looks, they make it look easy. It's very complicated, but the setup is great that you all have.
Well, that's why I couldn't get it working yesterday. I was like, I don't know what's supposed to be plugged in, punched up where, whatever. I had to ask a few questions today. So that's the dangerous part. Listen, when you look back on your career, what are the top 3, if you can narrow it down, weather events?
I would say one it would probably be the 96 Bullitt County tornado.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a pretty extreme event there. That was the F4. That was before the EF rating, the F4 tornado. Probably 94, and then maybe tied with that 94, the snowstorm, because the aftermath, crazy. I'll never forget the back work like that Wednesday of that week. The snowstorm hit Sunday night and Monday morning, and like Tuesday night, Spaghetti Junction, there were literally hundreds and hundreds of semis. Little Spaghetti Junction, because it got so cold, the diesel fuel
froze,
became solid,
kind of gelled up, yeah,
and their vehicles wouldn't go. And never have seen anything like it before, and never have seen anything like it since. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, we've all been through Spaghetti Junction. You go through it 55, 60 miles an hour, whatever. At least 500 trucks. And the fact that, I can go on and on about 94, but you want that number, and we can talk more about that if you want. But and the number 3 event, man, that's a tough one, because there's been a few over the years there. I don't want the 22-inch snow in 96. That, to me, that wasn't that bad, because it came over a 60-hour period. And a lot of the time it was 32, 33 degrees. So, the roads never got all that bad. Although the interesting thing about that snowstorm was the snow kept coming from the northeast to the southwest. So on that last day, we had inches of snow, on 10 to 12 on the ground already. And everybody thought, well, it's done. And I remember looking, I said, no, you got to look and see what Cincinnati is getting. And that's moving this way. It was snowing 2 inches an hour in Cincinnati. So we went on the air in the 6 o'clock news saying, we're going to get another 8 to 10 inches of snow tonight. Everyone said, nah, you're crazy. Well, we did. And then that evening at 11, we were getting reports of whiteout conditions in Madison and Oldham County. And what happened was that died out. It hit the Jefferson County line, Kevin, because we could have ended up with 30 inches here in Louisville if that last batch of snow had held together. I mean, 22 is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Can you imagine us having a 30-inch snowstorm here?
That'd be wild.
Buffalo West is where we could be, or Southwest, whatever.
And then of course,
I don't know on number 3, because there was a number of severe storm events over the years.
Flooding.
Maybe the tornadoes, Memorial Day tornadoes. Remember the weekend? It was the same year the Indianapolis 500 finished under a tornado warning. And the senior PGA was being held in Valhalla.
Yep.
And we'd already had severe flash flooding at the golf course.
Wiped out one of our live trucks, didn't it?
Yeah. It destroyed a $500,000 truck, all the equipment. But we had the air all afternoon, because you were in, Andy was in. Yeah. So there was 4 of us, and we did on a Sunday afternoon, 5 hours of coverage, and Louisville had 4 different tornado warnings that day. When you can you remember Louisville having 4 tornado warnings in one day? Yeah, and with so much going on. Go ahead with that. Yeah, and then that night, we had said the second line of storms is going to hit, late evening, and so late that night, it was 11:30 on a Sunday night. And here comes the storms and more tornado warnings. And it was crazy. Fortunately, the damage wasn't real bad in our area. And I know there was a fatality over in the Marengo area. Jeffersonville, downtown Jeff had a tornado with the community center was destroyed by a tornado. The damage wasn't too bad in Louisville, but just the fact that it was so overwhelming, the fact that the sirens just seemed like they kept going off in Louisville that day. Very scary. You mentioned the tornadoes. I remember standing one time with you in the weather center, and we just looked up. Remember this? And there was the tornado hit downtown. That car, it was a car, flipped a car or something. Remember that?
You have a much better memory at the weather events with the dates and everything that go along with them than I do. But I remember looking up that tower cam and being like, whoa.
Well, the news had just gone off. So it was like 6:35, 6:40. And so we're sitting there kind of lounging back. And we've got the tower cam punched up there. And we both looked up. We looked at each other. And we said, it's like, so you ran off to make sure to get us on the air. And I called the weather service. And I said, I called him. I said, this is John up in Wave. I said, we've got a picture of a tornado live around downtown Louisville. I said, I can't talk anymore. We're going on the air. Turn on the TV. And I slammed the phone down. And we had and it just missed Slugger Field by like, what, a block?
Yeah. It was just
and then
a couple blocks.
It went down and hit near Home of the Innocents. It went right down Main or Market. It went right down Market there.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like it was on the radar and we missed it. It was just popped up just like that.
Right. And so we're on the air like 5 minutes before the sirens even went off, showing this tornado. Well, of course, sirens went off because we were lounging back and having no life, sitting there watching a tower cam view.
That's what we do in between shows, just sit there and watch now we've got 10 of them we can watch. It's a little more exciting than it used to be.
But you have to be a weather freak to really, and most of the people in the business, not everybody, but most of the people in our business and the TV end, you eat, drink, and live weather. You're always keeping track of it.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here? 15.9 inches.
So that was 94. You mentioned this as your second one. I want to just point out a couple of maps because this would have been the timing of that. What's today's date? The 19th. So it was just been this week, 30 years ago. There's the snow map. You can see Frankfort had over 20 inches of snow out of this deal. And, a lot of people remember the ice and then the snow. Then that was followed by the incredible cold. Yeah. 22 below for Louisville. Some areas even colder.
And then, I had texted you last night when you and Ryan were talking about this, but I remember getting a couple of reports out of Oldham County from people, and they said their thermometer said 40 below. Nowadays, Kevin, like you can hook your weather stations up to the internet.
Yeah.
And, you can go on and scout around everyone's weather station here, like the Ambient company.
Right.
I guess it's ambient.com, ambient.com. Right. You go on and check their network. These are pretty accurate for the most part, especially, for like temperatures at night and dew points and stuff like that. But you can go on and check temperatures and get all the stuff. Back then, unless you're a co-op observer for the Weather Service, basically, unless someone called you, we just didn't have that information. You had to struggle. It was a struggle to get good information sometimes.
Well, the internet wasn't even around when, it was around, but we didn't have data access by internet until like early 2000s. It was all by satellite before that. So the idea of, maybe email came in the early 2000s, but I remember when I started here, it was nothing like it is now.
The big famous quote from Bryant Gumbel on the Today Show. He said, I don't understand this internet thing. I think nothing's going to come of it.
You see what that got him.
Anyone wants to look it up there. Kirk just looked at him saying, what are you talking about?
Where's he at these days anyway? I haven't, that's the first I've heard of Bryant Gumbel for a long, long time. I don't know.
Derek Jones. Well, you worked with Derek in the mornings.
Yeah, Derek was here.
And Bryant was Derek Jones' hero. Okay. So he got to go to the Today Show that one time. If I'm straying from the weather here. I know your maps are here. But
it's cold. Okay, that's about all we have to say.
So he got, before he always thought, Brian Gumbel, my hero. And then he got back and I said, well, how was that? And he talked about, Katie Kirk was great. And Al Roker, man, what a friendly guy. And he said, I talked to him all there. So I said, what about Brian Gumbel? He says, he wouldn't have anything to do with me. he wouldn't talk with him at all. He said, take a hike, son.
He's got a lot of those probably peeking in. Yeah, I get it. I don't know.
Those guys, I guess, it was like, didn't have time for the ordinary person. But he said everyone else on the Today Show was awesome.
Now, I'm just jumping through topics here, John, that I think that people would be interested in. We've gone through the 94 storm. We asked about the three top weather makers that had. Let's talk a little bit about folklore. I don't have graphics for this, so I'm just going to kind of thumb through our temperatures here. We're in the teens. These are current readings. 16 Louisville. Winds gusting 5 to 10. Seymour's at 18. We factor in the wind chill with that. We get below zero readings from Shelbyville over to Paoli. And wasn't it great finally to see the Paoli Peaks open back up after a string of years with just terrible weather?
It's a tough part of the country to operate a ski resort, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm going to leave this up while we talk a little bit about folklore. What did the folklore tell us for this year?
I didn't study it too closely this time around. I've been having, some health issues this past few months. So,
okay.
But the few things I looked at generally were for, nothing out of the ordinary as far as snow or cold. It was kind of equal back and forth. And, nothing's, even back then when we used to check out all the signs, some years it was like 80% of the signs are leaning toward this or that. You really didn't get that this year where it was pointing one way or the other. So.
And in that same regard, let's talk a little bit about La Nina, El Nino. Some people are like, okay, well, does that really matter? Again, 30 years ago, it was just starting to come about, hearing those terms. And now it's an annual thing that we talk about.
Well, the strong El Nino, and a lot of times in El Nino winters, some of our snowiest winters have been El Nino years. But there's, different variances. There's a weak, moderate, or a strong, is how, as far as the temperatures out in the Pacific Ocean. But there's so many other factors that come into play, like what about the warm pocket of water just south of Alaska in the ocean there. So there's so many factors that can change. The polar vortex, will that break loose? Well, it did, and that was forecast back in December.
Yeah. There
was talk about mid-January, we're going to have a blast of cold air. So the question is, is that going to happen again in February? I see if the Climate Prediction Center, which issues the, 6 to 10 and the 8 to 14 day forecast. And if you just type in on Google, anybody watching it, it's a good website. I check it every day. But it's Climate Prediction Center. Just Google that and it'll take you there. And on every Friday, they issue a week 3 and 4 outlook. And for today, it had us in above normal temperatures right in the middle of February. So where other people are saying after Groundhog's Day, it's going to come to an end.
I'm waiting to hold my opinion until I see Punxsutawney Phil.
Remember the trip we took up there.
That is an all-time highlight, by the way. That is a life memory, and that was your wife Lynn. I'm sure she's probably running the camera where you are, but that had to be in the top tier of things that I've ever experienced. That was a blast.
That was amazing. I know it was on a Wednesday that year, and on Monday I told Lynn, I said, let's go to Punxsutawney. We don't, not knowing anything about other than the groundhog comes out, in the morning for his forecast. And so she says, I wonder if Kevin wants to go. And then you, of course, arranged a deal to bring a camera along and to do live broadcasts. So we drove up there. And it was
the only way they would let me go.
But it was so much fun because, they have, how we've got the horses here, the Gallapalooza horses.
Yeah.
They've got the groundhog, the city there. You got us the press passes, so we got into the dinner the night before, and you got to meet the governor of Pennsylvania, and
it was crazy.
We were everywhere. So, yeah. So you're doing your reports that morning. We went on the air 6 o'clock or something, and Lynn was running camera for you, and me, I was out just roaming around. I was up there by the Weather Channel people, kind of watching them. So
I thought it was so wild. Here we were. We got up at 2:30, 3 in the morning to drive to Gobbler's Knob where it takes place, and thinking
within 40 miles. Yeah.
And I thought, we're going to get there early. This is going to be something. We'll wait for people to pour in. They'll pull him out of his. It was packed. I mean, it was like the infield of Churchill Downs. People had a good time all night. It was wild and cold.
here's the two of the things that really impressed me. One, well, we get at our hotel to 3:30, and the breakfast buffet is already open. They said one time a year, every day it's open from 6 to 9, but on Groundhog Day we open it at 3 a.m. so and then the 20-minute fireworks display at 6:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was a great display.
It was
over Louisville, except it was early in the morning.
I'm trying to think of what they called all the guys in the top hats. Would they call them the inner circle?
Like that. Yeah.
It was wild.
Why do they not have women in the inner circle, though? Why does it have to be a bunch of old men?
That's a good question. We could write a letter. We should have changed that while we were there.
I've always wondered about that, and maybe Phil is a girl. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you never know when they swap the groundhog out. There have been many Punxsutawney Phils throughout history, they say.
And you can see Phil, by the way, year-round there because he or she lives at the library, and they've got a big window. Any time of the day or night, you can step up to the window and look in and check out the groundhog. Yeah,
that was a good time. That's coming up, so we'll have to see what Punxsutawney says.
Kevin, you need to do another road trip.
Let's go. I'm always ready. All right. Let me go through these temperatures. Cold. This is tomorrow morning. We're talking single digits. Wind chills. What's the coldest wind chill you remember?
Well, they changed the formula in 2001. So I've been outside in like a 60 below wind chill before, but we don't have that anymore because, well, maybe up in North Dakota or something, but like the wind chill in Kansas City for the football game last Saturday was like what was like minus 29.
Yep.
Well, on the old formula, it would have been about 50 below. Bengals had that game in the 90s, the Freezer Bowl, I think they called it, of the playoff game, and I think it was like minus 59 was the wind chill. So the Kansas City one was almost as cold as the.
Hang on, that's us running out of time. Well, we've got about 10. Sorry. We got about 5 or 10 minutes left, and it's going to bail us out.
Okay. So anyway, yeah. So an old wind chill formula, about minus 60 is the coldest I've ever been at. So
yeah, I remember one time it was I want to say 96-ish. We were up in Rochester, Minnesota at the Mayo Clinic with my dad, and it was 60 below. It was so cold. You walk outside, like everything just froze. It was terrible.
I mean, I guess I don't know how they do it up there. I guess you get used to it, but I don't know. I just don't, man.
A lot of underground, you can walk places without having to really be out and about.
Minneapolis is famous for, you can go through the whole downtown area and never go outside.
That's the way Purdue was. Now, they shut a lot of the tunnels down, but almost every part of campus up there was connected by tunnels, which was kind of wild. All right, I'm just going to show the surface map. There's nothing going on. It's all about the wind and the wind chill tonight. You can see Kansas City, speaking of, it's 4 degrees there. Duluth, -2. I think the interesting part is the big warm-up coming our way next week. So we've had these little ups and downs in the forecast. We'll see these temperatures tomorrow morning cold. They're cold again Sunday morning. But we do notice that warm-up moving in. And highs are back close to 60. Wouldn't be surprised to see a few folks hit it by mid to late next week, but a lot of snow melting going on in that forecast next week. So there's just a couple of days
if we
ahead.
had a sunny day, it would be definitely a car wash day.
Yeah, for sure.
With all that rain, I don't know.
And that's
that salt off the vehicles. Yeah.
The thing is, it is a high chance of rain just about every day, but probably going to do it anyway, just to, like you said, get the salt off of there. So, well, we've got a few minutes left. And what do you want to talk about? I've been kind of driving the conversation. You tell folks what you've been up to over the last 14 years. You're a granddad. You've got 4 grandkids. That keeps you busy. Oh, 5 now. That's right.
That's right. 5. So nothing like grandkids, is there? Man, it's something else. No, we're just every now and then people see me around town there and say hello, and I appreciate that, but nothing all that exciting. I'm not a big world traveler or anything like that. Just like to stay at home and watch a little TV there.
Well, we've always appreciated what you've done for Wave Weather in particular, and being able to grow up watching you and work with you, and still keep in touch with you. I talk to you a lot, so.
Let me say something for the people watching that may not realize this. The graphics that you all do on the news, whether you got the little roller coasters going or the football going through the air or whatever. I watch a lot of TV stations around the country because, I just like to see how people are doing the news in different parts of the country. And I have yet to see a station in the country that's doing graphics like you all are doing them. So it's a big hats off to you all. I mean, it really is incredible, and I hope the bosses there at Wave appreciate what you're all doing with the weather there. And then when you do the weather outside with the way the computers are now, what a great looking shows that you're doing, Kevin. It's just incredible.
Well,
just incredible.
I appreciate that. Yet again, it goes back to the creativity. You were the master of that, so you were always thinking about. I remember coming in as a kid. You'd be drawing frost on pumpkins and that kind of stuff with an old telestrator that graphics back then were nothing like they are now. Our graphics. It
was a struggle, yeah.
Yeah.
And my theory was, as many newscasts back then as there are now, so it's hard to do now. But it's like I would try to mention something that people could remember later in the day, or tell a friend about, saying, anyone can get out there and talk about high pressure in Minnesota. I mean, who cares? But some kind of weather trivia or something strange to mention, and then someone the next day, hey, did you hear what John talked about in the weather last night? And so and we'd sit there side by side. I'd be saying, what can I talk about tonight? To get people to remember.
Yeah, it's that nugget, something that will stick in your head. And
there's so much, and of course now it's there's just there's so much going on in the weather now anymore. The wintertime, and of course with the internet, you can always find something. Back then it was a little harder, but yeah. But it's like hey, people are tuning in. They like the weather, and let's give them something what's the song? Let's give them something to talk about. Except this time it's about weather we're talking about.
Well, you mentioned the graphics. Ryan, who's on our staff, Ryan Hoke, who is another, young guy who grew up watching Wave, wanted to be a part of the station. Feel very similar to that. Brian Good was the same way. You were his mentor too. He was over in Fern Creek, worked at the Kroger store there doing weather. But Ryan is a graphic genius, so he really knows how to work the system. And while we can come up with some of the creative ideas, he can sort of make them happen in that 3D world, and that really is.
He's a genius.
Fun to do.
Hey, the first time I met Brian, Tom Wills, Craig Edwards, and we were out at the fairgrounds. I don't know if it was the Christmas show or what, but they put a booth for us because Wave had put out a calendar for the year. It was a weather calendar with photos and all sorts of stuff. So we were out, signing the autographs. So Brian showed up with his father. I think he was like 10 years old or something like that. And I remember him because he was so enthusiastic about the weather. And then I remember when he was in high school, when he had that job at Kroger down in Fern Creek.
Right.
And he would make announcements about the weather. And so then one night he called me. We had a winter storm warning in effect. And so he called me and interviewed me on the store intercom. It was like the store came to a halt to hear what we were saying.
Everybody ran to the bread and milk aisle.
But they had to have been a first for the whole Kroger chain to have something like that. But yeah, Brian was great. Even I think the Courier even did an article about him or something. Or maybe it was Wave that did. We
did a story.
But, yeah, he was
way back then.
He was famous as working at Kroger, the Kroger meteorologist. So.
That was
people are learning about the Wave team here tonight. The Wave weather team.
And the new hire, Carson Meredith, starts next Wednesday. Same story. A guy from here, Middletown, grew up watching Wave. Been in Huntsville the last 4 years, wants to work here. So he'll come on board taking Jessica's place. And Tawada, while she's not from here, she may as well be. She married a hometown guy, and they're settled in. And it's just a great team that we have. And as you know, that makes a difference. So we're running out of time. We've got about 2 minutes left. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Just hello to everybody out there watching, and to you all at Wave. Keep up the great work there. We certainly appreciate it. I know there's during these times of whether it's winter weather or severe weather. There's a lot of long hours and a lot of hard work that goes into that, getting the word out to everybody. Not just over the air, but over all of these different platforms. And we certainly appreciate the work you, Kevin. I mean, you've really put together. You're a genius when it comes to me. I didn't understand all that. You kind of organized all this and have done a wonderful job. And hats off to you and your team there on covering the weather and keeping everybody safe in Louisville.
Well, we really appreciate, John, all you've done. Thank you. We'll say goodbye for now. I'm going to look at a few things, jump on the news tonight at 11. John, maybe we can get you back on here sometime.
It'd be fun.
I didn't go through a bunch of the comments here. They'll appear on all of the Facebook pages, and you can go back and take a look at those. But Tammy McNeil, who worked at Wave, and she says, love you both so much. So a lot of people that have chimed in, and a lot of people saying hello, and they miss you, and they're glad to see you. So we appreciate that. We'll jump back on. Be well, and I'll talk to you next week.
Always a pleasure talking with you.
All right, John. See ya.